we'll be covering 67 slides today. Just kidding. That was not a trick question or comment, but yeah. So what we want, yeah.
Abhishek, I'll just get my generative AI clone on here to make sense of all of that.
Okay, sure.
I'm kidding. Like I'm saying, if you're going to go through 67 slides, I'm not going to be able to pay attention to all of that.
Well, you don't even have to say that. Gen AI would already have taken those in, right? So just FYI, I was trying. So we had the last couple of meetings we did in a more of a panel discussion where we had a topic and a few folks who would come up stage and chat about it. We thought this one we'll open up and and enable a way to kind of for all of us to go share, build a funnel of ideas. So we thought we'll pick up data as a pivot. How we all we all have dealt with data within OMS. Some is easy, some is not so easy. We've obviously, things have changed substantially over the last 5 to 10 years. So there are more possibilities that have come up with the tech, with cloud, with big data, and so many things that are changing. So we thought it'll be good to jam on what is the art of the possible and imaginable, and see where could we go from there. And again, it also gives everyone an opportunity to and hopefully a framework to talk through it. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we get to that, a quick poll. It's summertime. People are either sleeping in, maybe not, maybe going out. So just put in chat on what are the most interesting places, or what interesting place you travel to this summer. Some of us travel outside, some of us travel within ourselves, in our heads, and that's okay too. Especially the dreamers. So put it on chat. Where did you go recently? And yeah, welcome to share it as well. Cabo, Mexico. Zach. Keith, Mexico City. Wow.
Wow.
Vijay, which supermarket did you go to?
Stop and Shop.
Stop and Shop.
It was really exciting.
As long as you're building solutions for them, that's fine. Road trip, Eastern Europe, Darko. 7. You meant countries?
Yes, sorry, 7 countries, multitasking. But
where all did you go?
It was great. I went to most of those countries when I was younger, and I wanted to kind of do it now in my 30s, and it was also fun, just with less energy. But it was around 20 days. I traveled mostly by train, so it was really fun.
Very good. Thanks also for reminding us that you're still just in your 30s, and some of us are maybe a lot older. Point taken.
No pun intended.
Of course. Nimish, I see you went to India. Where did you go to India? Was it family or someplace fun? And family can be fun as well, not to say that it's not mutually exclusive, but
yeah. So I went to around 7-8 cities in India. So it was like all over the place. Yeah.
Wonderful.
One moment, let me start my video. I thought it's already there.
Good. Yeah. Thanks for raising the curtain. It's always good to. We were calling this group as OMS Anonymous. So it's good to have people on the video while we do that. Wonderful. Yeah. I see Chap says super sexy northern Wisconsin. Chap, connect the dots for us, please.
Well, it's just not that sexy of a destination, but I love it.
Okay. Wonderful. I think Saurabh has been flocking tennis courts in the Texas heat. Good luck with that. You're going to lose water for sure. I'm not sure if you lose weight. All right. Wonderful. So what we'll do is we've set up a tool for us to kind of be able to engage and interact in parallel, and we'll quickly in just a bit we'll turn to that tool. But before we do that, just to warm up and think about what data might mean for some of us, we wanted to run a very, very quick poll. So I'm going to bring up the question and then we'll go from here. So first question is, in your opinion, what set of OMS data do organizations value most? in the current times, I would say. Okay, you see equal responses. There are many options. I think fulfillment performance click to release is the winner so far. But about 13 of 17 participated. Anyone else still thinking? Okay, I'm gonna take a moment and end in 1, 2, and 3. So here is what it looks like. Fulfillment performance click to release is the winner. I think that's how that's kind of the base metric, I guess, so to speak. Inventory is becoming more and more important. Accuracy, especially in the current context when we are going through waves of up and down. And then cost to serve, of course. Anyone inspired to share anything? Any thoughts? Any critiques? What we might have missed in the options? Go on, Dylan.
Not a missed option, but I voted in for cost to serve, specifically because the fulfillment performance and how quickly products getting to the customer was a pre-pandemic focus for sure. I mean, that's a pre-2010 performance metric for any companies that were especially getting into Omni, but to look at, because everybody's had Amazon blinding them from everything else going on in the industry. But in the past 2 years, I've seen the cost to serve come up because in all the efforts to make more expeditious fulfillment, margin has been getting eroded. And so, yeah, the last 2 years seems, and especially 2020 and 2021 was a lot of fulfillment performance because a lot of, especially in 2020 when stores were closed down, you had to have the best performance for people to even give you the time of day for sure. But again, a lot of that came at a cost. And so I'm seeing a lot of people really getting focused on the cost to serve. And what I'm hoping I don't see is the pendulum swing so far that the cost to serve starts to degrade the fulfillment. They need to find a way to manage the same performance at a lower cost.
I think what you're saying is very interesting, Dylan. What you're saying is that the priority or what's important needs to be looked at through different lenses at different points in time, right? Yep. And with what's happening with the economy in general, what's happening with the consumer sentiment, and therefore how must one respond, or what area needs more focus, when, right? And I think the pandemic really taught us that, right? It's it wasn't really driven off of changing consumer needs as much as or consumer behavior, but more it was a need of the hour to get things to people where they are, right? Meet them at curbside, meet them at getting product to their doorstep versus, hey, come into the store and buy it the way you normally would, because that just wasn't possible. Very interesting.
Yeah, Nimeshu. So I also choose cost to serve, primarily, thinking that is a broader area. So if I look at retail companies, right, not only they're focusing on how to ship out products faster, better, cheaper, but they're also looking at reverse logistics. How can they minimize the cost there? So I felt, cost to serve probably end to end is the most optimal option here. Others focus more on the outbound side of fulfillment. Right? And of course, inventory accuracy is a big.
I like the reverse logistics call out too. It's the most expensive shipments, the return shipment, because it doesn't even need to happen, right? So interesting thought.
I went with inventory accuracy. I agree with everything you guys mentioned above. I just think that the inventory piece is the prerequisite for all four combined. So if inventory is not in place at the right time and at the right count, everything else we do, it's going to become more expensive. That's why I went with inventory.
I was going to say.
Yeah, love that. Well said.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next poll then.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, thanks, chap, for checking in. I would just say that just in hindsight, all these options are around costs primarily, but the ability of OMS data to drive conversion and revenue, right, from a promise standpoint, I think that's another area which people have started valuing from a data standpoint. But yeah, obviously cost is first. Right, we'll stop this and move to the next poll. And here you go. Then there is no trick answer in this. What OMS data is hardest to use or to deal with, right, to analyze? Right, I got 7 out of 17.
How many you got now?
And I'm guessing people are still thinking, they're asking ChatGPT.
What's the thought behind the question?
Yes.
Uh,
What do we mean by hardest?
Well, yeah, I came up with the question, so it's just where do we see organizations try to unlock that data, but really struggle with either getting access to it or interpreting it at scale to have meaningful insights and do something with it.
Okay.
Right, I got 13 out of 17. Yes, right. I'm going to end it now. Okay, so it's inventory reconciliation for most of us, looks like, followed by audit and employee specific performance equal. I think I've a lot of focusing on, but yeah, not so much employee specific performance. I don't know if anyone has experience in dealing with employee specific performance and is inspired to share something. Go on.
Yeah, for me, that was like employee specific performance was the I clicked that like right away. Because we dabble, I mean, in the OMS world, you dabble in call center and you dabble in store. And some of the and the main metrics that are looked at in both areas. Oh, he keeps on
Go on. There you go. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, sorry. So the metrics that are captured typically in an OMS aren't as detailed as they're looking for in the especially in the call center world, where it's about how long you're on calls, which isn't always what's captured, and the duration of time. I mean, some of that's captured in the audits, but I think it's a little squirrely to get it.
Yeah.
And then the store world, I think I think the OMS has been getting better with some of their store tools in terms of capturing the time it takes for pickers to pick stuff. But again, I think they're getting it's evolving a lot in the store world, where they're not just happy with being able to do omni-channel. They want to be very efficient in the way that they're doing it now, and see exactly how how much time it's taking to go through the store and pick the stuff, and seeing the exact timestamps on everything. And I don't know if the OMS is getting to that level. So that's kind of that's where I was thinking with that.
Yeah, I think that's the one I was tied between sourcing audit and employee specific performance, because to your point, Jay, I think employee specific performance is the difficulty of it is actually further upstream on just the capture in general, especially when you associate those two channels. And really within the store, this is one of the areas where software products, when the blinders on, you make really good tool sets, but then all of a sudden they only work for that single channel. And I'm thinking of things like LM in the DCs, where you can have so many specific details down to an individual employee, so you can measure performance and roll all that up into your total metrics. There's tools for stores, but the biggest argument that you get is really a change management consideration, where everybody's trying to save labor in stores. So asking somebody to check into an activity and then every action that they take like you would in a DC It's really difficult to get the store environment to accept that they do that as a high efficiency within a DC. So you can do that in stores and then be able to bring in that data. And then the other piece associated with that too, and Abhishek, we talked about this offline a little bit, was the actual costs associated with the employee performance. Nobody's tying it, no, I don't say nobody, but like very few people are tying into their payroll system to say the actual person is paid this actual dollar amount per hour, rather than when we say, hey, we can, use intelligence to go after the lowest cost to serve, and you say we need a dollar amount for labor for the stores, and like, it's about this. And about this doesn't help us, especially if you end up hiring somebody specific that's going to do it, the rate then, so you can put it there. But when volumes get high and you have to have other people come in, managers and otherwise, that maybe make more money, or potentially somebody else who's new that makes less, you're not getting that accurate dollar amount. So I think employee specific performance to me is more about, it's the difficulty of getting it in and the change management associated with that. But to use of the data that's there, the reason I ended up choosing sourcing audit is the data's there, but now you have the trust of machines versus the decisions you made on your own pattern and all that other kind of fun stuff. So you can go through and you look at the sourcing data. I keep saying nobody and giving an absolute, but very few people want to go in and understand where the benefits are coming from in the decisions that are being made. They typically want to go through and dissect where are my opportunities within sourcing. And when you're running something that's machine driven, there's so much more to it. Like trying to dissect it, you have to dissect it for that second in time. And to some companies with their volume, that millisecond in time. And it's so difficult to go through and audit that and actually get something meaningful out of it. So I found that tuning to do better and to perform better on that overall cost or whatever you're looking at, and then going after the change management of trusting the machine is more more readily available of an action to take than actually auditing through the data and getting something meaningful.
Yeah. Anybody who voted for inventory want to speak up?
Yeah, I did poll for inventory, and the reason I think sorry.
Are you there?
I think there's some disturbance. You might have gone on mute.
Anybody else want to chime in on inventory?
Yeah, I can.
Go on.
I can chime in. So inventory, the reason I selected inventory is this is one of the common theme across companies when I'm working. We kind of promise it, and it is a kind of interlink between sourcing and inventory is how I hear the question. Why it starts off with website is reflecting a wrong inventory. Why website is reflecting a wrong inventory. There are many systems that's where the inventory spans right from merchandising system to DOM to the website and all. So there is within this exchange, there is always this constant question of inventory is not accurate in X system, Y system. I had seen this becoming a big audit item also. So with millions of SKUs that are present for any given retailer, there is no accurate way of really reconciling the inventory to better answer the question is one of the common issue that I had seen. And of course, it relates a little back to the sourcing also. Okay, why did the order allocate to a particular node kind of thing? And again, you have to dig through what was the inventory at that point of time. Sometimes we are able to debug, sometimes we are not able to accurately answer. So that is the common theme that I've seen. That's why I selected that. While I agree to the comment Dylan and others made on the employee side also, but inventory, at least in my experience, I had seen inventory as a bigger problem.
Yeah, I think the dynamic nature of the inventory is really, whenever somebody comes to me with a question from a client, it's always, it's always around inventory. And you've got several variables, right? If it's a marketplace channel, there's a delay between the inventory published, what gets published to the website, how it gets pushed to, say, Amazon, and that message coming back from Amazon, and it's going to a store. It's very dynamic, or they've got damages and and inaccurate cycle counts and customer shopping. Like it's always, you're just never, it's never just super precise. There's always some variable there that can make or break it. So while there's a great log that says, hey, at this point in time, this is the exact snapshot and this is the picture that I had, and I had two and I sent you two. If you got to trace that back up, then when was the last update? And there's just a lot of minutia that you have to go through, which makes it hard. It's not hard, but there's a lot of minutia that you have to go through that makes it a long, arduous process.
Adam, I love actually that you brought up the other channels too, because it's interesting to me that retailers over the decades have gotten not great still, but better and better at dealing with Black Friday traffic, not stampeding each other and stuff, right? But it's the same thing. You only have 50 TVs and you've got 10,000 people coming for them. Why can we figure out a way to manage that, but we can't figure out a way to manage the digital exact version of that, right? You have limited inventory, more channels and traffic than you could possibly serve that inventory to.
So I'll give you, this is a story I probably shouldn't share, but I worked for a very large retailer long back. It's probably there in my LinkedIn. And it was the first time we had omni-channel for Black Friday. We had some stores doing ship to home. And this senior vice president of the company calls me on Black Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, says, why the hell do I not have inventory? Why do I not have any inventory here for my real customers? Right. And that one just floored me. This is a very high dollar person in the organization. Why do I not have inventory for my real customers? And there's a valid point there, and right. And there's lots of rules around segmentation and different things that you can get into today to fix that, but it's challenging.
Yeah. All right. Great input, guys. Well, let's Abhishek, should we move on to
Thanks, Chad. So what we're going to do is, I think it's good to just warm up to the notion, but what we'll do is we want to look at the whole data domain surrounding, within or associated with order management, inventory, order, the way data comes in, the way data moves. And then let's try and build a funnel of ideas, thoughts that we as a group feel. I think there's no wrong, like any brainstorm, there's no wrong answer. I think what we share, we build on top of each other. Maybe for today, what we wanted to do was just go build that funnel and see where it goes collectively. What we're going to do is, so any thoughts, right? Are there any missing KPIs in the evolving market, in the current context? We spoke on what mattered during COVID and what matters now, cost to serve versus customer experience. Can we look at the OMS data, compose it or combine it with other data elements surrounding the overall omni-channel e-com domain, and create some interesting metrics that might be the North Star, irrespective of the season or the weather that the retail industry is going through. And then any innovative, cool things you might have done, and ideas in terms of dealing or handling data, where in the past where you were solving a problem and it was not direct and you did something cool. So what we're going to do is that's what we'll pivot on. What might be some imaginative and innovative uses of OMS data. And as I do that, Karan will post a link on the chat. If you could click on that link and go to this tool, and you might have to write your name. Sorry, was that a question? You might have to write your name, accept some pop-ups or privacy, but it should quickly land you in here. Okay, I see Zach coming in. So it's a new tool we are trying. We just want to make sure that everyone is able to learn it. Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, no, I can check. I can check now. So
I see Dylan is in.
meeting that, so
So while you all make your way in, what we'll do is we will spend maybe quiet time, right, reflecting, say somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes, just to put your own individual ideas on the board. You can use what's on the board. You can borrow a sticky note from right here and pull it up and draw it and start writing something, right? And then
right at the top, you'll see sticky
top,
note in the menu. You just grab one of those and drag it in and start typing in it.
Yeah. And then move it around, and then the moment you feel you are done, I say you feel because you always keep having thoughts and ideas. You can thumbs up, and then what we'll do is we will then switch gears and we'll go over what came up, a set of ideas, and go around the table and we can share and talk about those ideas, thoughts we have. Any questions, or before we? You're welcome to talk, but it's good to reflect and see what you're thinking and what ideas might you think might be relevant. Is anyone not able to make it in? Any tech challenges? Can put on chat and happy to help you offline. It appears like a football video game.
Someone got bold with a circle.
Yeah, I was gonna say Darko's. Was that you?
Sorry.
You should be. Everybody else is doing this. Why would you do different?
Well, I'm the youngest person, as mentioned before.
Hey, I've got a handful of months in my 30s still. So there you go.
I know I ordered you a cake already. Should be there.
You didn't. That's a lie.
Dylan, you look the same as when I met you. So that was like 10 years ago.
I don't know if that's.
Is that a Dylan, did you take it as a compliment?
No, you said
I don't know, the only compliment on how I look ever, and I guess it's not a compliment, but the only time that I ever felt like, yay, I could buy beer without an ID since I was 15.
Nice.
I always looked significantly older than I was. I got carded like a year ago, but I think it was more like
as a courtesy.
somebody's carding everybody, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But that kind of made me feel good. I was really hoping what it was going to be is I can look older while I'm younger, and then as I get older, I can look younger. And maybe there's a flavor of that, Zach, if I look the same as I did, almost 10 years ago. But I'm not experiencing that personally.
So
I'm
Dylan,
experiencing is all this color change and like all that kind of fun stuff going on.
yeah, Dylan, it might say less about you than about the person who actually carded you.
Yeah.
It's all relative. They were young, so everyone looks older.
Yeah.
To a young person.
Maybe they forgot their glasses at home.
When we talked a few months ago, Dylan, you remember the first thing you said to me?
The first thing I said to you? I
Yeah.
don't remember the first thing I said to you. It's probably rude.
No, it's like you look exactly the same. I was like, picture of Dorian Gray. I got the just sold or the Brendan Fraser movie. I forgot which one we were.
I think you said Dorian Gray.
Bedazzled, not Bedazzled. Adam, you know this probably. What's that Brendan Fraser movie? Elizabeth Hurley. He sold his soul to the.
Yeah, not bedazzled. It's something like bedazzled, but not bedazzled though.
Bedazzled.
Guys, let Darko focus. He was writing in that circle forever. Just kidding.
Darko.
Can I tell you?
I know
something?
you said it's supposed to be quiet time. Well, we do this.
That's what I said.
Let me share. I think this.
Zach on the call, right, Zach?
Come on, guys. Yeah, y'all knew that when you invited me. I'm not taking the blame for that.
Hashtag OMS Anonymous.
I'm sure.
We should rename the group.
All right. How is everyone feeling? I think you've got good space, good time to think. Any other ideas?
It's good.
All right. So, sorry, what was that?
You want to increase the font on this one, Darko? Is that yours?
Which one?
Yeah, no, I can do that. I'm going to do that as we speak along.
Oh, got it. Okay.
That's what I was trying to do all this while fixing it. But yeah, I think the next step really is to go around the table. We can pick ideas. We can pick post-its and kind of talk around it. So I'm going to pick one and then let's chat upon that. So I'm seeing a couple of good use cases around post-purchase journey. Darko, did you have those use cases in mind? Or are you just thinking?
So I've been thinking about this lately, mainly around how can we enhance the customer experience using self-service. So something that I've been really thinking about is whenever we ship an order, we have that grace period to kind of hold the order within OMS and do certain changes. Currently it's at 30 minutes to 60 minutes for most brands, but I was thinking sending a link with an OM, for example, if an order goes on a back order data, we send them a notification or an SMS where they can go, and if they don't want to wait for that particular product to be delivered later on because of the back order, they can substitute it for a similar product. One of the use cases. So, hey, this is on a back order. Instead of you waiting 3-4 weeks, we don't have it currently, but this is the related product to it. And you can do an even exchange. You can even do an uneven exchange for a product that is more expensive, but I haven't thought through how we're gonna reorderize the credit card, but that's one of the use cases I thought about.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think we should allow cancellation also at that point in time. I've seen in personally experienced also, especially with white goods, right? Most of them go on back order, and then you have another 4 week of delivery time, which kind of gives you a frustrating experience, right?
Yeah.
So at that point in time, either you should be able to cancel,
Oh.
self-serve cancel, but most of the time you're required to call the call center and kind of work it out your way, right? So I think that's a good point.
I work on the cancellation part. We currently have it, but also a second use case is because most of the states require, in order for you to keep a back order longer than a month, the customer to opt in. So when the time comes for us to cancel that order, I would send them an SMS or a notification of any kind. It can be email, SMS, or just an app notification for them to opt in for additional 30 days. That could potentially save some of the orders.
Okay. It's a good use
Who-
case here.
Yeah. Who wants to go next?
On the post-purchase thing, and it really ties into a lot of this. So my call outs on the right, the bigger yellow one on the right, is less about the usage of the data, but actually capturing it itself. Did an exploration from a previous company with a company called Adeptia. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them, but unlike other service buses or other integration tool sets, they use AI to help you actually map the data. So all of us have had to sit through the data mapping of every program that we've ever done when we have to do the integrations, and it can be days of work just to get it all mapped on paper, if you will, and then you set people after it to go work. There's gonna be hesitation against accuracy and things like that as you have AI, but it doesn't get better until you give it enough stuff that it can learn and keep growing. Adeptia was able to reduce that time to hours rather than days, because not only is it pre-mapping things, you can audit it live during that. It's a drag and or a point-to-point click and drag to map things. It can be audited when there, but then when it's done, it actually accomplishes the integration on the back end. Right. So Adeptia sits in between, and I'm not saying everybody go buy Adeptia. What I'm saying is what Adeptia is doing should be built into the integration framework of the tool sets that we have. So when somebody comes and says, I want to do X, I don't care what it is, I don't care what year we're in or whatever, when they want to do something, the new data is there's a way to do it. And it can be done quickly. I think the ability for people to test and learn would greatly increase in these types of tools if they're able to do those types of integrations with very little concern.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, I'm not talking about pre-integrated. There are some tools that have these pre-integrations to Shopify, for instance, right? And so it's easily tied into their schemas. This is more about you don't need to know what the tool set is. You just need to know what data you need and what data is being provided, and the system is able to identify what's similar, what matches, what doesn't, where there's conflicts, and do that map.
No, that's cool. I think I'm seeing it as assisted mapping, right? Almost like it's a data-driven way to identify what might kind of how it might click, and then you and I would say, please, I would suggest, why don't we raise your hands, Zoom hands, if you want to speak next, and then that'll hopefully create a queue. Who wants to go next? Go ahead, Zach.
Zoom-handed.
Zoom and both.
Both. So mine's on the bottom left. So I think the coolest thing I saw in the last 5 years was there was a large cosmetics company that was trying to correlate the effect of inventory inaccuracy to making a bad promise, to leading to split shipments, to ultimately mapping that to impact on lifetime value. And specifically at Foot Locker last year, when I was on the brand side, we were doing a lot around post-purchase NPS. I don't see a lot of people tie together that full picture. And the irony is, everyone on this call knows inventory inaccuracy or stale or over or under inflating. Darpin, you and I were talking about like caching, and like I think that was one of the topics before. No one's tied that well and in a repeated way. That's not the norm, especially in retail. So it's like all of these downstream impacts, all the OpEx cost are there because of the upstream issue. And it's bad enough that people look at it and like, well, it led to lack of add to cart or conversion. But either people are focused on this side of the bow tie, which is post-purchase experience and ops, or they're on this side of the bow tie not is conversion, right? And they're just talking about like add to cart. So it's like a Google Analytics discussion and a BI supply chain ops discussion. I haven't seen people marry the two. And if you can get that holistic look, you can say, hey, the customer service team can go to the supply chain or store ops or hopefully Omni ops and say, here's the problem, right? We're overstating the jobs daily, not hourly. Hey, your cycle count was wrong. You should do them on Friday, not Tuesday. It's all these reasons. There's no causation. There's just maybe correlation alone. That's the two boxes basically right there. It's like the impact mapping isn't clear statistically, like show the causes, and there's missing data in part and lack of investment to do this, but the ones that are doing it well are reaping the benefits top line and bottom. So that's my soapbox. But I truly believe that's the one of the biggest gaps in our space right now. So
yep, agreed.
Go on. I see Dylan's hand is raised while he already spoke, Dylan. So I'm going to give. Yeah, go on.
Well, mine just in response, real quick to Zach.
Yeah,
you can. Which is to your point. There are some people who are doing it. I think the biggest call out here and why it's super relevant to these ideas is because people are doing it on their own. There's nothing that's helping them do this. It's the ones that have it figured out, have gone through significant pain to try to be, to Zach's point, both sides of that bow tie and the knot in between, right? Like, and they're really, they didn't have something that was available to them to help them guide. It was just like, you need to understand your data, where it's coming from, and whether it's gonna be Power BI or whatever you're gonna flow everything into to bring it together. So you only, even the people who are doing it the best only know what they've characterized.
That's right.
Right. So it's still, even though they're reaping a benefit from it above other people, it still might not be accurate itself. It's accurate to what story they've told themselves.
Like a house with a duplex. You can only look into one side at a time mostly. It just knocked the wall down.
Yeah.
Nobody use that. I'm going to use that, by the way.
I like that one. I was just, I like that.
No, trademarked.
Could we
yeah,
maybe could we get someone on the call that saw one of these ideas and said, wow, that's cool, and maybe who was the source of that idea? Anyone wanna, they don't have to explain their idea, but maybe react to an idea on here that they want to hear more about? Anybody?
I wanted to know more about OMS Digital Twin.
Me too.
So I see OMS Digital Twin, localized promotions based on inventory. That's what I was hovering on.
Awesome.
For a bit.
Who came up with that one?
I wrote that down, chap. Yeah.
Das. All right, Das, you're on the spot. What did you mean by that?
Okay, so what I meant by that is that, I think there's a whole lot of data that OMS can have access to. Like technically, there's data on the promising side, data on the sourcing side, as well as all the payment fraud, all the status updates, fulfillment updates, all that is coming from. So if I was just thinking that I've thought about this earlier too, is that if you have some sort of a digital twin concept of an OMS, right, that is now able to use all that past historical data to make predictions on what's likely to happen. When is a fraud queue that's is likely to go longer than the SLA's permit, or when are you likely to have a surge of something? So could a digital twin then help make the real OMS make better decisions? No, I know this concept is a little bit abstract, but something that I've thought about earlier. The digital twin in the supply chain is a known concept. People are using it for shipments that are coming from China or whatever. I think there are concepts of that. But could we use it in a more OMS focused mode? That was what I had in mind.
one of the similar things I've heard, Das, is, more of a real-time decision making, right? So when we look at things like sourcing or, there's a flow of orders happening at all times, for most brands and retailers. And as new orders come in, how do you sort of rejig the decision making, while new orders are coming in based on what's happening real time, right? And I think it kind of keys off of what you were saying. What you were saying is that, hey, there's a lot of historical data that can inform that real time decision making, but really moving from a static rule based decisioning to more dynamic and constantly updated decision making based on what's happening real time, based on what's happened in the past, right? I think it's sort of what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
All right. Hard to, certainly hard to build. Okay. Who wants to go next, or any other ideas that excite you on this board? I see a perfect order index, POI.
Yeah, same narrative line from a minute ago. It's like, that's the goal. Every lack of split shipments, great. Customer delivered on time, great. NPS score worked, but like, how do you back into what led to that not being right? So it's the kind of a different slant on the blocks to the left. So people do the POI score sometimes, but like then they sit in a weekly meeting. And they're like, well, what caused that issue? Maybe the inventory was accurate. Maybe the store person was like, nope, I'm too busy, decline. Or maybe they didn't search hard enough for the second item. That's not, no one's capturing that in the data. It's not an industry norm to do it. The ones that commit to that OpEx, operational excellence, to do that do. But they have to make the investment, like Dylan was saying, and a lot of people don't commit to a multi-year, multi-million-dollar cohesive BI data strategy. They just measure Adobe or GA and Google, and they measure Power BI over here. And that silo in its own right, that's the issue, and the customer feels it in the middle. Empty promises.
I'm surprised there are no callouts around OMS and returns, only because, we're all in the industry. We know returns are sitting at 22 to 25%. It's a huge impact. It's really expensive. We don't have
on this one that I call out, Darko, the big opportunity to consume and leverage post-shipment data. A lot of people might read that and actually think about this as the actual carrier data. Yes, great. But also the returns piece. It's one of the things that I've been thinking of in here is, if you have a customer that continually buys, but they have a high return ratio, right? And you've got that data, a lot of the promises for companies today are still to provide a range, right? Like they're still doing like our free shipping is 5 to 7 days or something like that. And they target the 5, right? They want to hit the 5 so they can be within there. Maybe for the person who's, is going to do a return at a high probability, but you're not going to shut it down because they do keep some of their products. Maybe you do the cheaper option for them that's going to take 7. Right? Maybe the different decisions that can be made that you're not disrupting their experience overall because you're within what you've promised to them, but you can make different decisions associated with that returns data itself overall. The other side too, which I know you're familiar with, Darko, is that's about cost. There's a huge opportunity on the avoid returns process that there's not a lot of companies actually putting solutions to. And the companies that are, so like Newmine, their solution itself requires action, which is not a problem. That's actually a good thing. But you have to commit to make the action. So when you see what a merchant may see when they see, hey, we've got a high return rate on this product because it doesn't match the imagery on the site. Like, oh no, I've got to go reshoot photos. It's like, you just might need a color retouch on the photo that you already have, which wouldn't take that much time. If sizes are wrong, you might just need to put, while you redesign the product so that it's the right sizes in the background, until those products flow in, you may just need to say, hey, this product runs large, runs small, whatever, order a size smaller, something like that. There's little steps people can take to avoid making those moves. And to avoid the return overall, e-commerce, especially in apparel, just continues to have just disgusting levels of returns, and a lot of it is about fit and size and trust in the actual
Actually,
the match what's
the-
there.
the biggest bracketing, like you mentioned before. That's
using the data to actually in the return space figure out how you can avoid returns. Obviously, cheapest returns when
you can so I mean, I agree with everything you said. The problem is that I think for the past 5 years we set up an expectation as a normal customer behavior that it's okay to purchase 5 and return 3 or 4, and that will not change. But we
Right.
have
We've created a bad behavior with our teenager, and we've done nothing to address it. So they're going to take that into their adult.
Right. But I think the other issue is the data capture on that itself is suspect, right? Like you got you're counting on a consumer to tell you that it was the color versus the size versus the style, and we all know that
Absolutely.
that data capture itself is a very big challenge.
The reason
to get right.
I'm sorry, chap.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying the reason why I mentioned returns is because I think it's a great segue to a different topic that we also haven't covered so far, and that's re-commerce. There are cases that we consider there's so much to do there. I read a 40-page report last week on re-commerce, and it's growing at a staggering pace, 10 times that normal retail is growing. And OMS will have a lot of work to do regarding re-commerce. There are distinctive use cases, how we handle returns, and then we turn around and sell them. So I think we can even have a whole session around that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And there's
E-commerce could be
some interesting solutions coming into the marketplace around re-commerce. So yeah, I agree. It's a huge opportunity in the next few years. People getting more comfortable with the concept of re-commerce.
I know we're almost out of time. I think for the next session of OMS Anonymous, I love the name, is this same question without the word OMS in it, right? What are some imaginative and innovative uses of data, right? So I think more on the sourcing and allocation, and AI is great, but even without AI, I don't go too far to that point yet. There's some data elements that exist today that we're not really considering. We have, to Zach's point, just a massive amount of data that we're still not quite using. So this might be a good question for concept board.
Well, that's actually one of the questions on the concept board that we're not going to get to today, which is what other data would augment OMS data to make an even more compelling picture. So yeah, absolutely.